start today's wrestling news. A former WWE champion becomes a free agent.
Another former WWE champion weighs in on a racism furore.
AJ Styles reacts to Will Ospreay's move theft, sort of.
We have an update too on a major SummerSlam singles match.
I'm Adam Wilborn.
I'm Michael Sidgwick.
And this is the news. It feels like a lot longer than 90 days ago, but finally, Jinder Mahal, former WWE champion, is a free agent. He was involved in a wide range of cuts that happened on April 19th, including the likes of Cameron Grimes and Xia Li, of course. He took to Twitter last night, simply tweeting, "Hindered no more, 90 days are up." Jinder Mahal, who's going to compete under the name Raj Desi, already been booked for a few dates. He's going to wrestle on July 26th for Black Label Pro Wrestling in Chicago, a show that's also going to feature the former Cameron Grimes, now, of course, well, actually always has been, Trevor Lee in his first post-WWE appearance. He's also working, Mahal this is, or I should say Desi, I suppose now, Triple A's Triple Mania on August 17th. He's going to be teaming with AW Satnam Singh as they challenge for the AAA Tag Team Championships. It does feel like a lot longer ago that those cuts happened, doesn't it?
Yeah, time is completely distorted in a way that I struggle to comprehend every single day. Now, here's the thing for me. Will Desi, Jinder Mahal, work Hook on Dynamite? Is it too late to capitalise on that particular thing? Ooh. Will Jinder at any point rock up in AEW? That seems to be the question I anticipate people asking at some point. I don't really see it, personally.
No.
I think it's a bit too late in the day for that novelty match. I will say, though, I expect him to make a killing on the independent circuit. I think he's got that WWE sort of quality about him in that he was very heavily pushed. He didn't really sort of do anything between stints the last time. Mm-hmm. He's got that WWE quality, if you want to call it a stigma, you can as well, but that might see him well. He could do something maybe vaguely similar to the Matt Cardona thing, where because he was a WWE guy through or perceived to be, he did well in that sort of interloper gimmick. I could see Jinder rocking up at Game Changer Wrestling.
Yeah.
Sort of like, as the avatar for the enemy. He can get some heel heat out of all of that. I think if he plays his card right, he can do some pretty sort of notable irony indie stuff as well. Because I'm not being funny, I don't think he's necessarily going to go and do the G1 next year.
No.
For example. I think that the irony indie interloper kind of shtick is the way forward for him.
Yeah, no offence to Desi. I'm a lot more excited to see what Trevor Lee does now. He's a free agent. I'm really, really hoping for big things for him and people recognise what talent he has. But yeah, me and Andy were chatting about this, saying how potentially you could easily see him, like you say, doing some big indie dates. He's already got a few booked, obviously, and doing that sort of thing. And then eventually ending up in TNA, which is sort of now a backdoor to get into NXT developmental, which gets him back in the WWE circle. So.
Hey. Stranger things have indeed happened. On the former Jinder Mahal, he also, in an interview with Chris Van Vliet, was asked about a very controversial and, let's face it, dismal 2017 storyline, as part of which he, the character, we should be absolutely fundamentally clear on this, the character was asked by Vince McMahon to do some racially charged promos at the expense of Shinsuke Nakamura. It wasn't great. No. It was, in fact, dismal. Everyone knew it was dismal. Even if this kind of thing was in any way kind of, worth doing, it wasn't worth it. It drew absolutely no heat, no interest, didn't heat up that inexplicable, quite frankly, title reign. It was desperate, it was awful, it was basically every bad thing you can throw at it adjective-wise. Speaking of Van Vliet, he expressed reservations. The man behind the character absolutely did not want to do it. He was apparently reminded by Vince McMahon, you're a character, it's just entertainment, go and do it. It's weird to describe it as professional, but I guess that is what he kind of had to do and felt he had to do with him in the role. He knew what was coming, he anticipated it, the social media reaction was entirely predictable and warranted, and then apparently when he got backstage he was told about the instant no, this sucks, this is awful, this is abhorrent reaction, and then there were moves made to potentially release a statement along the lines of, look, this was not something that we endorsed or we regret doing it or whatever. And he was all prepared to write out the statement, and then Vince just said no. no, you won't be doing that.
It's such a microcosm of that time. It's a weird period of Jinder Mahal's title reign because it was dreadful, as you say, but it's tinged with, it's one of the first few things that happened when I joined WhatCulture, and I was like, this is so cool, I get to talk about wrestling for a living. What's going on in wrestling? Oh no, it's on fire. What's happening? It was awful. Like you say, from the moment they did the title switch with Randy Orton, it was like, well, that's a shock. Not a good shock, but a shock nonetheless. Yeah, the Shinsuke Nakamura stuff was just atrocious. It's like, it was a weird thing to do anyway, to pit those two against each other, and it was just, you hated the Jinder segments anyway, because it felt like they were just grasping at anything that previously has got heat for champions. So just like, just be really over the top and offensive, or just do the same finish to every single goddamn title match. Not that it would have made things any better. It was still dreadful, abhorrent what they did. He didn't even lose to Shinsuke. He beat him.
Oh, they've got echoes of 2003. They absolutely love doing this. They love doing the wrong thing wrong.
It was just...
Then, now, forever, and I'll scrub that out. Doing the wrong thing wrong.
Like, there's something there.
That was the Vince era summed up.
There's something there in terms of like, okay, you want to get the Indian market, so you're going to put the WWE Championship on an Indian superstar. But they're going to be a heel who cheats. You have to completely distort the way that you present them in terms of trying to get them over for an Indian audience. It didn't work anyway.
That's not the worst thing about it to me. It was just the fact that absolutely nobody bought it. No. It was the absolute epitome of what you shouldn't do when you're scripting anything or writing anything, and that's you should show, don't tell. And it was just such an oppressive, deal with it sort of push.
I would have loved to have seen Jinder versus Brock though. What the
hell? I wouldn't.
What would that have looked like?
That would have been awful.
Brock would have been like, I'm not going to say... It would be Brock versus Kofi, wouldn't it? Yeah, so I'll beat you in 7 seconds.
Yeah, like there was just no way that match was happening.
Not selling for you.
Not a single chance that was ever going to happen.
Genuinely, best of luck to Detti.
Yeah, genuinely. I think he can make a killing if he plays his cards right.
Right, let's talk a little bit more about MJF versus Will Ospreay from AEW Dynamite. There's not been much conversation about that online for the last few days.
Yeah.
But some people have been kicking up a stink, I suppose, about Will Ospreay's move theft. Because he did a few Stars clashes, like an Avalanche Stars clash and a Stars clash just in the ring normally against MJF as part of that. Well, I was going to say 60-minute epic. 59-minute and 58-second epic, technically. By the way, I know a lot of people are excited to see what Michael Sidgwick thinks about all this. We are going to be talking about it on the Collision Preview podcast, wherever you get your podcast from, later on today. In terms of AJ Styles' reaction to the Stars Clash being used, he's absolutely fine with it, unsurprisingly. He took to Twitter saying, "Why do you think it bothers me that somebody else is doing my move? We all do it. It's wrestling. I think if nothing else, it shows appreciation." Yeah, obviously. I am fairly certain that Will Ospreay has actually cited AJ Styles as one of his heroes, his inspirations for getting into wrestling growing up. So you can arguably see it as just an homage to Styles. I think he may have done a phenomenal forearm recently as well, maybe even in that match. Regardless.
He just went at the back of the head.
Yes, of course. And I just... Yeah, it's something and nothing. It's, as always, people trying to make an issue out of something where the wrestlers involved are absolutely fine with all of this.
If I'm AJ Styles, I'm absolutely doing cartwheels over the idea that one of the most critically acclaimed wrestlers of his generation continues to pay tribute to AJ Styles in his matches. It's one of the absolute biggest testaments to your legacy. I'm thoroughly unsurprised that AJ Styles came out like that. What an absolute... what's the word I'm looking for here? It's a total gift to his legacy that people want to continue with, people want to pay tribute. It cements him, establishes him as one of the most influential wrestlers and the most sort of worshipped wrestlers of his generation. I just find it I find it baffling that this conversation has happened. I don't find any conversation baffling anymore. And it's not just, when did he start watching wrestling? Like, not only has this happened forever, not only does every wrestler draw from a very similar set of moves, it's all about execution and when to do it. There are very few very, very creative wrestlers left. Kenny Omega's one of them, obviously. But Kenny Omega himself, in the Dominion 2018 match against Kazuchika Okada, my personal favourite match of all time, used the Styles Clash as a part of a story where he was sort of atoning for his, conduct as a heel, and he was turning babyface and all the rest of it. And as part of that match against Okada, the story was, I have to atone, I have to pay tribute to my sort of friends like you did with Kota Ibushi. I have to atone for the way I tried to win before, which was, attacking AJ Styles on the way out of WWE. So you can use this not only just because the move gets a pop and it looks cool, but you can use it to tell sort of textured stories now that collectively a lot of fans and pro wrestlers have grown up with a lot of access to footage, and you can just keep these stories ticking. I think it's a really cool way of telling generational stories, personally.
People are going to be absolutely fizzing when they find out about The Rock using the stunner in the build to WrestleMania 17.
Yeah, it's a nonsense. I don't understand, right? I'm a bit older, turned 39 this year, right?
We're all in our 30s.
We're all in our 30s. I turned 39 this year. I have children at home, so my spare time is at a premium. I'm up earlier than a lot of people, I imagine. I don't understand how people... I know we're doing it on a video, so I'm a total hypocrite. How do people have the energy to talk about this, to get annoyed, to try and create engagement? How are you not bored? It's been relentless. Almost every single day, some kind of idiotic conversation unfolds on social media in reaction to something AEW has done, and quite frankly, in reaction to something WWE has done. How do you still have the energy to care about this sort of thing and things along these lines? I don't get it. I continue to not get it. How do you still care about this?
It's all, you never be, it's funny because we were talking about MJF Ospreay yesterday in the news and saying how it's quite divisive and how we were kind of in the middle of all of this. You can't be like that nowadays. It's either the funniest / best thing ever and the power's back, or a disgrace to professional wrestling, or the biggest botch ever. You see people saying yesterday, ha 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 ha, they botched the count. It was meant to be a time limit draw, but they botched it.
No, it wasn't.
No, they were meant to, they timed it perfectly.
That's the one thing you can objectively say about that match, which is obviously very subjectively received, is that they objectively nailed their goal in the match, which is incredibly difficult. My thoughts are a little bit all over the place, but if you're interested, I am looking forward to covering it on the Collision preview, as Wilborn says.
And like you say, not to dive too much into this ridiculous discourse.
Chad Gable's allowed to be the next Kurt Angle. You know what I mean? It's just, I'm sick of it. I'm absolutely sick of it.
I think it was people saying, oh, AJ, their Stars Clash has just been used as a bloody transitional move. Well, one, no, it wasn't. And two, the Avalanche Stars Clash, which, yes, is a bit of a kill shot, to be fair. It wasn't that he went, Avalanche Stars Clash, 1, 2, he's kicked out. He was selling, it was like a desperation move because he was in trouble and his knee was buggered and he took too long anyway.
It's all a fake paradigm to begin with. It's all completely false. If you go back, it's a very early NWA Clash of the Champions. It's Sting and Dusty Rhodes against Tully Blanchard and Arn Anderson. I think it must have been 1988. It's a spot on the outside where Arn Anderson drills Sting with a DDT on the exposed concrete, right? Think about this. Arn Anderson, 80s, NWA, all of these things you would associate with like the strictest selling, the most believable form of pro wrestling and all the rest of it. Sting gets a DDT on the outside from Arn, rolls back into the ring. It's a 1.5 count. It's not even like a really cool fire up. He just sort of rolls his shoulder. Like, it's never been this most, I mean, obviously Jake protected it in the like, these moves have always been transitional spots. Like, just embrace reality. Join us in reality. It's horrible. I don't blame you. You know what? I don't blame you. Reality's horrible. Do it. Don't join us. Just, if you're gonna live in a fantasy land, live in one that's just slightly less toxic. That is my advice. Don't live in reality. Don't be in a toxic fantasy world where things have never been true that you think they are. Just, if you're gonna escape, just escape somewhere nice. Last story before I lose the goddamn will to live is that on Observer Radio, Dave Meltzer reports that despite the introduction of Ilya Dragunov, who's very entertaining, of course, into the feud and the ongoing feud between Bron Breakker and Sami Zayn, that is still penciled in as a singles match for SummerSlam. It's weird. There's a recent trend in pro wrestling that I simply don't get. That should, in my opinion anyway, send a message to the creatives and the promoters and the writers and what have you, is that between Drew McIntyre, CM Punk and Seth Rollins, Bron Breakker, Ilya Dragunov and Sami Zayn, and MJF, Will Ospreay and Daniel Garcia, there seems to be this like anxious threat of, don't make it a three-way, don't make it a triple threat. if I'm listening to those conversations which surround those 3 programs, and there might be like a few more, I'm thinking, oh, hang on, people aren't really into triple threats on big sort of shows anymore. Maybe we should stop booking so many of them. That's my takeaway from all this.
Yeah, I think it's the right decision, like you say, as much as I really enjoy Ilya Dragunov, and I think his transition to the main roster has worked really well. He's fitted in. I do think you need Sami Zayn Bron Breakker too, just as a singles match. I do think that's the moment they need to switch the title onto Bron Breakker. I am begging WWE in the build to this to do the Bret Hart.
Come on, WWE.
Do the Bret Hart Goldberg metal plate spot, because it's not like, oh, Bron Breakker's gone for a spear, that's so out of character. So, yeah, Sami should smarten up to that sort of thing. But yeah, I think I'd rather see I assume, a stepped-up rematch between Sami and Bron than adding Ilya into it. You can have Ilya fight for the title further down the line, and it obviously frees up Sami, if you switch the title, to be involved in potential Bloodline 2.0 shenanigans as we head towards Survivor Series. But I just want them to strap up Bron Breakker. I don't really care how it happens.
Yeah, no. I mean, they've pushed him very, very hard for a reason, so much so that the finish at, was it Money in the Bank?
Yeah.
Scanned is a little bit perplexing, so I expect it to happen at SummerSlam, and according to Observer Radio, that is what is potentially going to happen.
But let us know your thoughts on that and everything we've discussed in the comments section below. Like, share, subscribe, and while you're at it, why not check out this video right here. We'll see you soon.